This is one major event that brings us from all around the South. Yes, let's hear.
Uche. Uche Anichie is a seasoned tech and business innovation expert, angel investor, and fund manager with over 20 years of experience in business communication, process design, startup innovation, product development, and community leadership. He is a general partner at Rebel Seed Capital, supporting startups in Africa's Tier 2 cities, and co-founded SSE Angel Network, which mentors and invests in Nigerian startups, particularly in the South-South and Southeast regions. As a leading advocate for entrepreneurship in these regions, Uche founded Startup South, which has helped raise millions of dollars for founders while connecting, educating, and attracting investments. A certified startup coach with the Global Entrepreneurship Network, Uche mentors at the Entrepreneurship World Cup and advises venture-backed startups. He was the pioneer manager of Roa Hub, Nigeria's first on-campus tech hub at UNN. He is also the founder and CEO of Havila and Heels, a hybrid marketing and software development agency which has launched products like SportsView, OneSuit Accounting, FutureSphere Business Hub, and VenueHero.co, a venue booking platform. Previously, Uche served as Director of Communication at Imo Economic Summit Group, driving private sector-led economic development in Imo State. He is passionate about empowering Nigerian youth through entrepreneurship and fostering regional productivity for national growth. He is married to Delight and has 3 children, Havila, Z, and Eri. Ladies and gentlemen, please celebrate Uche Anichie.
Good afternoon. All right. Thanks to all of you that are still here. I wanted to speak way much earlier, right? And Richard insisted. I knew he didn't try anything. He just got back to me and said, "I couldn't do this." And even when I came here, he said, "Sir, don't worry. You will speak after me." And my wife answered for me and said, "Okay." And I had no choice, you know. So I'm happy to be here. I used to talk the chairman of my board at Startup South. You know, one of those days we were talking, and he said to me, we're talking about some of the things we're doing, and he said, Uche, you know, when you go to places like Lagos, you get a lot of meetups where entrepreneurs meet together, network, and have conversations. But here in Port Harcourt, you don't get a lot of that. If it was a social event, this room would not contain all of us, right? But, so I'm happy to see the number here, right? And I think you deserve a round of applause for this. I think this has afforded me an opportunity to meet some of you and meet some people that actually, thinking. You're pushing the boundaries and moving the narrative, way a notch higher. And I'm glad that I came here. So Richard, thank you for inviting me. But most importantly, I'd like to thank Chief. The first time I met him was in Benin several years ago. I can't forget. I'd gone to Benin to speak, and I met him, and he was packaging bakery at that time, plantain chips, right? I remember you gave me some packs, and I brought it home. I can remember. You gave me some packs of the chips, but one interesting thing is that of all the people I met at that event, he got stuck with me and followed. Not only did he join the community that I founded, and he kept following up on the things that we were doing. So I was shocked one of those days when he called me and said, I'm in town. I'm coming to Port Harcourt. I said, why? He said, there's this thing I want to do. And he came to me and we spoke. Interestingly, the hub that we founded became the springboard for, pastures. And I'm glad that we were able to contribute that, right? And, ever since we keep talking, and I'm proud of the progress that you're making. Let's put our hands together for that, Mola. Thank you to all of you. Amarachi, thanks for the conversation that you've had. I think in the end, I understand why Richard wanted me to speak last. And so thanks to my wife, Delight, for accompanying me to this. So when we talk about, the subject I want to talk about is an emotional one for a lot of us. It's funding. Funding is an emotional topic. It becomes very emotional for a lot of people. It is like that globally, but I think it's more elevated in Africa. And, people will tell you, if you go to the US, if you go to the West, people don't struggle to raise money. It's a lie. I know a lot of people in the send their pitch deck to fund their business, right? They live in the United States. Yeah, some of them are Africans that migrated to the US, right? So if it was that easy in the US, Africans that migrated will get money. True or false? So, but then there's one that actually started stalking me. She sent me a deck, She got introduced quite all right by somebody in our network, in our angel network. And typically, the fastest way, and we'll talk about it, the fastest way to get support is when you're introduced by people. So you call them connectors. When connectors get you introduced. In Nigeria, we talk bad about what we call IM, right? We say that IM. But guess what? IM is a global thing. It's not a Nigerian thing. Okay? And what that means is that you should be building your network and don't trivialize them. Okay? People will always be the ladder and the channel through which God will bless you. Yeah? So don't trivialize the relationships you're making, even the ones that you're making here. Because at some point, you will require somebody to introduce you to somebody who can support what you're doing. Right? It's also one of the reasons why you have to continue to show capacity when you get the opportunity to. Yeah? Because a lot of people have missed opportunities because they trivialize an opportunity to show capacity. Yeah? So you don't trivialize it. So when we get, I can do X, Y, Z, and I give you the opportunity to do it, and then you flung it, right? It becomes difficult for me to come back to you later and say, do this for me, or to now recommend you to other people to do it. Yeah? So it's very important. So it will always be recommendation. People will always recommend you. Okay? So finance globally is not easy. But there are principles, there are ways to get money, to get funded. And I think it's important that we begin to pay attention to this, because it's important. One of the things I do through Startup South is to get people to build big businesses. I'm tired of people trying to play small, right? You just want to build a business because somebody down the street or your neighbor started a business. And, that's the next trending thing. So, what's the innovation, right? What's there? What do you want to do differently? What stands you out? I want to know, okay? So, or people thinking too small. Like, I asked somebody, one of the guys I mentor, and I asked him, I said, what's your goal for this year? He said, oh, we're currently at 45 classes. It's an ed tech company. Oh, we're currently at 45 classes today, and we make this amount. I said, okay. So what's your goal for the year? He said, 200 classes. Okay. So how much is 200 classes in a year? It tells me, like, okay, good. What would it take you to do 2,000 classes in a year? What would it take you to do 2,000 classes in a year? Why are you not thinking that it is possible to do 2,000 classes in a year? Why are you comfortable? Right? Why are you comfortable with doing 200 classes in a whole year? Okay, so basically his business is get people, train 200 people on a monthly basis, right? It's recurring, so you can say, okay, if he charges 100K per class, so every month he does 200 people times 100K, right? How much does that come to every month? 200, no, it's not 2 million. 200,000. 200 people by 100,000. That's 20 million. Is that? That's 20 million, right? So that's 20 million monthly. To a lot of you, it looks like big money, right? It looks like big money, right? 20 million, 20 million, that's roughly 240 million in a year. True? And that's big money, right? How much is that in dollar terms? How much is that in dollar terms? So one thing you have to always remember is that you may be in Nigeria, right? But your standard should not be Nigeria. Because 240 million in dollar terms is roughly $140,000, right? So, yeah, so how much, what can that get you globally? Yeah, in Nigeria, you're bigger than most people, right? Is that correct? You know, there's this thing we have in our country, I pass my neighbor mentality. It is because of I pass my neighbor that you will go to a mall, a shopping mall, that is supposed to be a shopping mall, right? That has 20 stalls. And you see 20 small generators. That doesn't make sense. What I just said does not connect. It's because of I passed my neighbor. I passed my neighbor mentality. That's why you would see, you live in a compound, you live in an estate, right? That has like 4 flats or 5 flats or 10 flats, right? And you have 10 small generators. And the noise, you can't even sleep because the other neighbor has put on his own generator. This other neighbor has put on his own generator. God help you, you're in the middle. Right? It's a pass my neighbor mentality. What stops you from working together to have just one generator that is managed? How many of you know that that's even an opportunity? It's because I passed my neighbor that we don't have light, that we're suffering from light. There's also a political dimension to that. It's because I passed my neighbor that we can't hold our political leaders accountable. Everybody wants to think for only themselves. Okay? So that's not what I'm talking about today, right? So that I don't deviate. So here's what I want to talk about. No, go back. I know you've been seeing it. What should you know to assess finance as a business owner? Those that know me know I talk about startups every time. But today I'm going to be different. Because I realize that whilst every one of us can build startups. Not everybody can build startups. But everybody wants money, right? So what I had done, I realized that and I started working on. It doesn't stop me from talking about people building startups, right? But I realized that and I decided to create a course on how people can access funding for business. And I took it from a different perspective. All right? I'll talk a bit more about that much later. So let's go to the next slide. So, you see, funding at the core of businesses is capital. Yeah? Capital. That's the lifeblood of any business. You know, a lot of people will tell you, when you see statistics will tell you that most businesses do not fail because of lack of money. How many of you have seen that statistics? It's not because of money that businesses fail. But guess what? When the businesses run out of money, what do? Huh? They fail. So the root cause may not be lack of money, but the ultimate destination is lack of money. Is that correct? And once that happens, the businesses will fail. True or false? So, as a business owner, you have to be able to understand the different funding options that are available to you. So here's what I discovered. One of the reasons why a lot of people are frustrated about when it comes to raising funding for businesses is because a lot of us do not understand the different funding options and who they are for. And as such, we don't know how to assess. Are you following what I'm saying? We do not understand. I mean, you can stop me anytime. Or you don't have to wait till the end to ask me a question. So here's the thing. I have seen people that are running practically cottage businesses, sending venture capital decks. In fact, some of them don't even know how the decks are supposed to look like. So they send you like an article, like a love letter. Right? They send you like a love letter asking you for money. They want money from you. Right? As a venture capitalist or an angel network. So they send you a love letter because they don't know what a deck looks like. And these are like cottage companies. Do you know what a cottage company is? I mean, if you know what a cottage company is, you don't? Okay. You don't know what a cottage company is? Okay. Well, you know what a micro small business is? So a lot of us are running micro small businesses. Is it bad to run micro small businesses? It's not. Okay? But you become frustrated if you're running micro small businesses and you're going to venture a VC firm, an investor, to come and invest in your firm. That's the frustration. That's a source of frustration. And then you go back and say, oh, nobody invests. They don't want to give me money. But you don't understand what they need. So I think that's where the major frustration is coming from. Let's go to the next slide. So in this presentation, this is what I'm going to do. I'll give you an overview of primary funding types and sources. I'm going to highlight the funding options, for traditional brick and mortar businesses versus startups. Okay? Then I'm going to offer high-level tips how you can access funds. I'm going to provide you currently active grant opportunities, just a few currently active grant opportunities that you could leverage, all right, today if you're here. So that's what we're going to deal with. Next slide. So, to understand, in order to raise money, right, you have to first understand the funding types. What are the funding types available? So that you can properly focus your energy. Do you understand? If you don't know, you know how they say that people pray amiss. I mean, How many church people there? Huh? You know what it means to pray amiss, right? So we pray amiss because we don't have information. Okay? If you have information, you pray correctly. Right? So at the end of this presentation, we'll try and do an exercise, and you will tell me where you're falling. Are you ready? All right. So traditional brick and mortar businesses, what's that? But before, let's go to the next slide. Okay. So what's a traditional brick and mortar business? Now, Ola had spoken about scale. Who else? There are a lot of... Kingsley has talked about expansion. I wasn't here when Kingsley spoke, but I got a sense of what he spoke about because almost every other person referenced it, right? So he talked about expanding, he talked about diversifying and all of that. Yeah. So she talked about processes, efficiency. Okay? Now, I want to... There are two kinds of... Okay. Let me do it this way. I'm now sounding like a pastor, right? Okay. Let me do it this way. There are traditional business. A lot of you here are doing traditional businesses. And so you can add the mortar to that traditional because that's what a lot of you are doing. So what do we say when we say you're doing traditional brick and mortar businesses? What are we saying? We're typically saying that you're doing traditional, you're leveraging existing, you're doing stuff that already has standard. The reason you can talk about standard operating procedure is because what you're doing is known. You're not doing anything new. Tell me, if what you're doing is not known, you would have to be the one to devise the SOP, isn't it? And you cannot devise an SOP without doing some trial and errors. Correct? Good. So one of the reasons we can talk about SOP is because you're doing something that is already known. People have gone through that road. And they documented the things. If I want to start a business today in a restaurant business, right? Like Celebrity Chef, I don't know if he's still around. If I want to do a business today in a restaurant space, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I can bring in some innovation, but those innovations are basically peripheral. Nothing core. They are not hardcore innovations. They're basically peripheral. There are things like, the experience, service experience. Service experience is peripheral innovation. Do you understand? When we talk about hardcore innovation, you're talking about changing systems your business model, changing an entire business model. Do you understand what I'm saying? So those things are basically known. And so when you are doing a traditional brick and mortar business, the market, you have proven business models. So all you're just basically doing is enhancement. All right? So you're focusing, a lot of the focus here is on steady growth and profitability. Do you understand? Now, it's important to understand this because it has consequences. Part of what this means is that there's a cap to how much you can grow. There's a cap to how much, there's a limit to your growth, whether you like it or not. It's not a course, right? The way I say it, when I speak often, and I say to people, I say, listen, if I have using the same restaurant business, if I start a restaurant business on this road right now, I'm going to typically rent a space, right? when I rent a space, I'm going to have a fixed numbers of chairs for people to come and eat. True or false? Now, if I have a fixed number of chairs for people to come and eat, I can calculate how long does it take people to actually come in, get served, eat, and go, right? And then I can say how many, I can basically, project how many people can come into that restaurant on a daily basis. True or false? Now, if I want to, if I'm running optimally in that business, there's a limit to how much I can make in that business, and it is to the degree to which I fill those chairs on a regular basis. Is that correct? That's I'm running at 100% efficiency and capacity. So the money I can make, the only way I can make more money is if I'm increasing my price often. Is that correct? If I want to make more money in that business, I cannot, because that location has reached its capacity. So the next way I can make money is to go and establish another branch. Is that correct? Now, but guess what? If I'm establishing another branch, the same amount it cost me to set up that existing branch, the same amount I'm going to spend to set up the new branch, or even more. Is that correct? Is that correct? Now, that's where, those are the limitations when we discuss scale in our climb. So we're not talking about scale in terms of, so we discuss scale and we define scale as your ability to grow and serve more people without increasing the facility and infrastructure that delivers that service. So if I can serve, instead of serving only the people in that room, I can find a way. So assuming let's say there were 20,000 people I serve in that location, right? Assuming I can find a way to serve 1 million people without necessarily exponentially increasing the infrastructure that delivers that, then I'm discussing scale. It's the reason the likes of Facebook can serve. Before Facebook, nobody could have a platform that could do 2 billion people concurrently, right? So before technology, hotels, this place, I was telling my wife, I said, there's something, how many of you called here Sweet Spirit? How many of you called here Sweet Spirit? I bet every one of you called it Sweet Spirit, right? But that's not their name. Their name is Sweet Spirit. You notice it? How many of you noticed that? Their name is Sweet Spirit. They changed that name. It's been over 2 years they changed that name. But I can bet you a lot of people will still be referring them to Sweet Spirit. Now, what is Sweet Spirit? Sweet Spirit is a brand. It's a hotel brand. So what they have just done is that the owner of this place, the person who built this place, in order to make money faster and enter the market faster, bought a franchise from the Sweet Spirit people. By paying money to buy the franchise, the Sweet Spirit people were managing this facility for him or her, right? So they brought all their SOPs, the way, so that if you enter here, the same experience you get in any Sweet Spirit anywhere in the world is the same experience you're going to get here. Without that, this guy would have to build something from scratch. Okay? So, what has happened, apart from the guy here buying, what has happened is that the Sweet Spirit brand was looking for a way to scale. And the channel for scale for them became franchising. So before tech, franchise was one of the models for scaling. You can see they did not have to come and invest to build facility here. But their brand was here, and they were making money from the brand. It's the same thing with KFC. The people running KFC in Nigeria are not the KFC. Do you understand? There are lots of those brands. Okay? So, that's an attempt at scaling. Right? So, brick and mortar, that's where we are. We're still talking brick and mortar. Get to the next slide for me. So, when we discuss startup, we're discussing businesses that are interested in rapid growth, especially leveraging technology. They're interested in rapid growth. Okay? Leveraging technology. And usually they operate around, innovation drives most of what they do. Sam, do you understand? Have any of you seen a startup before? Do you know any startup? Somebody's smiling. Tell me, which startup do you know? Call their names. Who calls Sitemap? Oh, great. Okay, Sitemap, yeah? Pampe, yeah? Kuda. Mm-hmm. Which other one? So let's talk about some of the names you called. Kuda, we invested in Kuda. And because we invested in Kuda, we listed it on our website as one of our portfolio companies, right? And usually, my phone will ring and I'll pick. And somebody will ask, is this Kuda? Because my phone is on our website. Is this Kuda? What? I want to know where their office is in Port Harcourt. So somehow, Google is giving them the impression that Kuda's number in Port Harcourt is my number. So I faced that stuff for a long time. Right? Almost all the banks, up until recently, to grow, you have to open more branches. But Kuda, just like Revolut and the rest of them, decided that I can do the same thing and I don't have to open branches. So they operate across the globe. No physical branches. Boat. How many of you came here by boat? I came by boat myself. Right? One of the biggest taxi companies does not own a car. Does not own the cars. So, they mastered distribution. That's everything you're doing. Ensure that you understand distribution, because distribution is at the core of business, right? But that's not the conversation for today. So, now, you see these two definitions we've done is important because of the funding. All right? Because of funding. If you understand where you play, then the choice of funding that becomes available to you becomes easier, right? Let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about types of funding. Okay. So the first type of funding I'll talk about is debt financing. Debt financing. How many of you know that you can run your business with debt? You can run your business with debt. But is it every business that can do that? So what kind of businesses can leverage debt? Sorry? I don't want to. No, I don't agree. No business with assets. Distribution. distributors. Fair enough. I'm listening. This the last one. Cash flow. If you have a business that has good cash flow, good positive cash flow, you shouldn't be, especially if you have a good margin, you shouldn't be afraid of debt financing. So where asset comes in is when you have to prioritize the debt if it's required. But I was speaking with one of the professors yesterday. They say it's now more difficult, to get based on cash flow. Yeah, I don't know what it obtains right now, but the truth is, I know that with positive cash flow, domiciled in a bank, okay, so long as, and even I think it should even be easier now because with NIN, they can easily track all your bank accounts, except you're being dubious and you're opening accounts in other people's name, right? So it's very important. It's very important that you build a relationship. I'm going to talk about that. So if you're going to raise, so it requires debt financing. Actually requires what that must be repaid. Some of the characteristics: there's regular payment schedules. The lenders do not gain ownership. So if you don't want people to own part of your business, especially when you have positive cash flow like I talked about, then you may consider debt financing, because the people giving you money do not require to take ownership part of your business, okay? And then the interest rate are things that you can negotiate based on your creditworthiness. All right, so next slide, please. Who is this suitable for? Traditional brick and mortar businesses with proven model. We already said that, right? And then growth stage startups with proven cash flow can also leverage debt financing. And I've seen a lot of that happening. Some of the fundings that some startups are raising today are actually debt financing. And they are getting them from VCs some VCs are structuring debt financing, right? There are also some type of debt. I mean, there's some creativity around some of these things. If you want to raise debt, money, and somebody is asking you to use, okay, I forgot. There's some instruments. I don't want to get deep into that, right? There's some instruments. I don't want to get deep into that. So where can you get debt from? Bank and financial institutions can give you debt, right? And then development financial institutions. Who knows what that is? Development financial institution. Can you call some of the names if you know? Bank of Industry. God bless you. Which other one? Bank of Agriculture. Yeah. Development Bank of Africa. Is that the name? I know there's a Development Bank for Africa, but I think it's African Development Bank. African Development Bank, IFC, World Bank. Those are some of the people that can give you loan. Do you understand? So, some ventures, okay, that tool I was trying to remember was convertible notes. Some venture capital firms can also do debt. Some people can do debt. All right? So it's possible to do that. And then there are private people that can also arrange debt for you. Do you understand? So the key is in knowing how and when. The when is more important. When is it more important? When is it okay for me to go assess debt? Let's go to the next slide. So what are some of the high-level tips how to assess debt? The first thing is you have to maintain a strong credit history. So the banks will not give you. So there's these tips that I used to give people those days. If you're aiming, you know that your business is going to grow to a certain level at some point, and you need a certain type of fund at that time, right? Start today to collect small money. Small money. Collect loan, small money from the bank and pay back. Do you understand? What you're doing with that is that you're building some level of trustworthiness and credit history with that bank. In the US, it's give you card. It's your credit. In fact, there are some things in the US that you can't do if you don't have a good credit. If you don't have if you've not borrowed money before, they will not do it for you. You will not be able to do that thing if you've not borrowed money before in the US. Do you understand? So that's why credit score is very important. Credit score is very important. So begin to borrow money small for things, but don't borrow money for personal use, because that's where the problem is. Borrow money for business that you know. Yeah? So build up the history. Very important. Plan. I used to tell people will come and ask me. Some people know that I don't talk about business plans. Because I'm like, if we're discussing startup, what are you planning? What are you going to write as a plan? Okay? But not for this kind of conversation. Yeah? Because you're already doing something like we established, something that is already existing. So you can make projections. So why not build a business plan? You can build a business plan. Okay? Build relationship with multiple financial institutions as much as possible. So what does it take to build relationship? Know your account officer. Know who your account officer is. Establish relationship with them. Get them to become cozy with you. Invite them to your programs, your house warming, your child dedication, right? You organize parties, invite them to your parties. Okay? Let them get cozy with you. They are the ones that will even tell you when to apply for some of the loans. And they'll be the ones to guide you, because at the end of the day, if you don't repay the loans, it impacts them. So they also guide you to make sure that you're doing something that will not hurt them at the end. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about the next one. This is equity. So equity financing. What does this mean? This means giving out part of your business in exchange for fund. Okay? So what are some of the characteristics? Investors gain ownership stakes. There is no obligation to repay the fund. Okay? But investors expect returns through dividends or capital gains. All right? Then, of course, it often requires relinquishing some control over business decisions. That's part of the equity. But I think here is, we need to pause here and talk about okay, go to the next slide. So who is this suitable for? It's suitable for high growth potential businesses capable of generating high return on investment. So typically, this is one of the reasons why startups would usually go for investors, for equity. If you understand these things, getting money will be easier for you because you prioritize what's best for you. Why do startups go for equity? Because startups traditionally are meant to be businesses that if they grow, they are supposed to be businesses that if they succeed, they are supposed to grow really, really big. And here's a tip that you should know. The investors investing in startups are actually not expecting dividend. Dividend is what you pay you pay shareholders. True, you know that, right? They're not expecting dividend. That's not how they make their money. I'll talk to you. If I have the time, I'll go a bit in depth and talk to you about. So, investors in startups are not expecting. That's not why they're investing. Somebody will say, so why are they investing? They're expecting ROI, no doubt. But that ROI is not dividend. What they're expecting is the growth in valuation of the company that they can sell at some point. So I don't care, I can invest. So this is what happens. A lot of you think, apart from angel investors who invest their personal money and their experience, right? VCs do not, the monies VCs invest are not their money, not their personal money. They collect the money from other people and then invest the money. They're supposed to return that money back to those people, but in multiple times over. And the typical lifespan of a fund is between 7 to 11 years. Do you understand what I mean? 7 to 11 years. So what it means is that whatever I'm investing in, within 7 years, I should be able to exit that business in about 7 years, and that business should be able to give me, like, at the minimum 10x what I invested. Some people will tell you 4x, right? But the best 4x is a suboptimal return. 10x is like, yeah? So 10x, you should be able to give me 10x. We Capital just exited from Flutterwave. And that exit gave them back their entire fund. Just one exit. And that one fund was not all invested in Flutterwave. Or did I say Flutterwave? No. Not Flutterwave. They exited from Money Point, sorry. We Capital exited from Money Point. Okay? And of course, that fund invested in different companies. But Money Point has already returned the entire fund. That's what VCs are looking for. They're looking for that. So let's say the fund was 2 million or 3 million or 5 million. So it means that exit has given them 5 million. Just one exit. And they may have invested only 500,000. They may have invested only 500,000. So, but that exit has returned that entire fund for them. So what happens next? They are now waiting for other portfolio to exit so that they can just take profit. It's possible this also gave them profit. They just basically wait, let the other portfolios exit so they can take profit. So that's what investors, VCs are looking for. So if you are not building a business that can do that, why are you going to VCs? You see, if you understand this, your frustration will be lesser. Okay? So it's very key that you understand this. So it has to be rapidly growing businesses that need fund injection to capture significant market share. And this is the reason startups raise money. Because they're revolutionary most times, they're innovative, revolutionary, they are looking to capture a good chunk of the market share as quickly as possible. So speed is part of my own definition for what a startup is. So it's not just enough to define a startup as business, that an innovative business bringing a product to the market to serve a huge market at scale. No, there has to be speed. The speed is important because of the component where the funding is going to come from. If I fund you and you're taking 15 years, you're dragging your foot, right? I may have lost faith before my own investors. Do you understand? So I think it's important you know this so that you can limit your frustration. Where do you get this money? Where can you get equity finance from? Here, angel investors, venture capital firms, private equity firms, capital market, institutional investors. I can go deeper into these things, but I'm sorry, there are other things we want to talk about as well. All right? The next one is debt financing. The next slide. Oh, before we go to that, so deep, what are the tips? I know that I wrote develop a compelling pitch that highlights growth potential. I know that I wrote that, okay? But that's not where you start from. If you want to assess this, the assumption here is that you are already building something that is very innovative, that is solving a real problem. So the starting point should be make sure that you've identified something that is very innovative, that is serving a big enough market. Okay? I think it was Damola that talked about market. A big enough market, you must make sure that you already have that in place. Now, you must also make sure that you've invested your own money. So, because this is where a lot of people miss it. You think that I have an idea, it's going to be big, but the only thing that is remaining is somebody's going to give me money so that I can do this thing. That's error. Nobody will give you money to do something that you're not convinced enough to put your own money inside. Do you understand? So traction, there has to be traction. You have to demonstrate traction. So traction means that you must have used your own money to start the stuff and you've started gaining revenue from your customers. And I tell people, focus on the customers from day one. Take this thing to the market, get them to start using it. People say, but they will not like it, it's not refined. Listen, anybody who does not like the solution in an unrefined format is not your right customer. It's not your ideal customer. Why do I say so? If somebody is very thirsty, and I bring water here, let's say the water that is just not as clean, right? But there's no other water, and you're very thirsty. Will you drink or not? I mean, you will not get water elsewhere. The water is not bad. It's just that if you have options, you won't take it, right? So will you take the water or not? You will take it, right? So a lot of people are not dealing with things, are not solving real problems. So because you're not solving real problems, you're treating peripheral issues. And because you're treating peripheral issues, you're struggling. It's the reason why I told, was Glory? Where's Glory? Okay, Glory is here, right? What I see a lot in this space are people who just left school. No insult meant, right? People who just left school because there's no work and they've been told create work. And they say, you know what, I want to build a startup. I have an idea. That's what I see a lot, right? But the right thing should be, I left school, it doesn't matter what you studied. I left school, I got a job, I started working and I gained experience. But as I'm working, I'm discovering that there's a gap, there's a need somewhere. Sometimes within my space, right? Some other times outside of my space, but I have significant access. Those are the kind of people I want to work with. Those kind of people can already solve the problem without technology. So technology is not supposed to be like, you have to be able to solve the problem so that you can then use technology to scale it. Do you understand? So sometimes when I tell people, so how much have you, they come and tell me about ideas, and I say, so how much have you sold? They say, I'm not sold. We're looking for money so we can build the app. I'm saying, sorry, you're not serious. Because the problem, if the problem exists, you can actually solve the problem without an app, without a tech. Do you understand? It is the problem that you're solving that you're going to use technology to scale. Except you're building you're creating new version of artificial intelligence, like you're doing a research that will bet a whole new model of artificial intelligence. Let's talk. But if you're not doing that, for crying out loud, go and do the business first. You understand what I mean? Go and do the business. Let's talk about how to scale what you're doing, leveraging technology. Let's look at how we can change the business model. Yes, please. Please, microphone for him.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Everyone. I'm Daniel Michael. I'm the co-founder, or actually the founder of Communal Technologies. What we do actually is provide an accounting system for majorly cooperative and SMEs. So you are talking about solving the problem before developing any software for it. So these cooperatives and all these SMEs have been actually working with the manual method, which we understood clearly that they're actually having lapses. And in situations where maybe a member of a cooperative makes a particular payment at a particular date, and that record was not taken note of, they have an issue there. So we had to come up with this idea of developing this software where these members can actually make their payments and every other obligations, at the same time having it at their own convenience with their phone, wherever they are around the world. So how do we actually solve that problem that they already have?
Are you a member of the cooperative?
No, I have some set of persons. I have certain persons that are actually members of different cooperatives.
And they came to you and said, this is a problem we're having?
Yes.
Okay, so now that you've built the solution, have they started using it?
Yes, I have about 700 persons using it currently.
That's from one cooperative, right?
No, not just from.
How many?
4.
From 4 cooperatives?
Yeah.
Are they paying you money for it?
Currently, I decided to make it free so that we'll be.
That's error. That's error. So in your case, you are in a position, if you think that the problem is so important to them, then they should be willing to pay for it. If they are not paying for it, then it's not an important problem to them. I know that your question is, how do you solve the problem without tech? I know that's what your problem is.
Yeah.
That's your question, right?
Yes.
But you see, when we speak in life, you cannot conveniently cover everything, right? But you have to understand something. The reason you heard about the problem inside there is because people inside came to tell you, isn't it? So you can as well assume that these people were having challenges and they're looking for solution. True? It could have been you inside there. And then you started looking for how to solve the problem for them. True?
Yes.
Now, but here's the thing. Because it's a business, because very soon, somebody like you will come and meet me and say, I need funding. And then I'll ask you, how much have you sold? You say, no, I have 700 people using it. And I ask, how much are they paying you? You say, no, we don't have any revenue yet. So what fund do you need? I need funds so that we can do X, Y, Z. And I will go mute. Right? Now, usually, Go back to them. Go back to them and say, you know what? Because we're a business and we have to grow, we need to start charging something for this. So each person using it, you can decide to do it as an enterprise subscription at the cooperative level where the cooperative has to pay you, or you do it in such a way that the cooperative members themselves get to pay to access the portal. And if they don't pay, they don't access it and they are losing, right?
That's the way I built it.
Good.
That's the way I built it. But
Good.
the thing is, we are still trying to test run the system, like make it efficient because the system has to accommodate more than one cooperative at the same time. So in that case,
don't worry, no waste time for here. Multi-tenancy system is what you're trying to do. It's a SaaS system, multi-tenancy. So the point I'm making is this: do not. I know a number of people that built what you're trying to build, by the way. Okay? Now, do not, if it is important to them, let them pay. You want to make it efficient. Those people will not give you the information you need to make it efficient. You can quote me. They will not. Do you know why they will not give you? They have nothing at stake. People with nothing at stake, people that have nothing at stake, will not give you valuable information that will help make the system efficient. I'm not telling you something I don't know of, I've not done, or I've not. I have a founder. I have a business that's one of the businesses that I mentor, right? For years, I've been telling these guys, go and get customers to pay you. They were shy. So go and talk to customers. I said, go and get customers to pay you. They were shy. They now went and got some schools to start using their platform. My instruction was, go and tell them to pay to use it. They went there, they said they are getting them to try it and gave them MOU to sign. I said, okay. They have won a lot of prizes and got some money, so they had money to run. And I was looking at them. Money finished. We need investors. I have access to investors, but investors will want to see traction. They don't know whether the thing will work. The only way they're going to know that the thing will work is when somebody is paying for it. Do you understand what I'm saying? And even at that, there are still some other nuances that maybe this conversation, I'll cover all of that in my course, right? There are other nuances around it, okay? Now, but here's what has happened. Thankfully for them, again, I supported them, gave them another lifeline. They won another prize, right? And then I said to them, go back now and get people to use this product. They now listened. So, and when they went this time, the schools accepted to pay. The first thing that happened is that the moment one of the schools accepted to pay, they were now able to tell them what they really wanted. Do you understand what I'm saying? They were now able to tell. Why are they telling them? Because they have commitment. They were now able to tell them what they really wanted. And my guys were like, really? So now, that thing has changed their focus. Guess what? Because of that feedback that school gave to them, they went to another school and said, oh, this is what we're doing. This is what those are signing up. So he calls me and says, sir, we just signed up another school. I say, yes. They're changing their model completely. People have been using it. It made them lose. They should have gotten like 100K from MasterCard. Because they are associated with me, they got to a level. But of course, when he gets to the revenue part, everybody got cold. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Everybody got cold. So if they had listened to me when I was saying go, they would have been sorted with their model. So it's the same thing I'm saying to you. They are trying it. By the way, I'm not saying what I've not done. My profile said that we built one street accounting, right? Did you hear that in my profile? We built one street accounting. One of my guys then told me, he said, Uche, charge money for that thing immediately. I said, no, hold on. This was some years back. I said, charge money. I said, no, hold on. I want more people to just use it and da 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 da. The people that even signed up were not using it. Do you understand? They signed up and they were not using it. We packed it up eventually. So when I say some things, some people don't understand. I'm saying some things and I've read a lot and I've heard a lot and I've traveled a lot to get to understand how some of these things work. If I listened to that guy when he said, Uche, start charging, I would have been able to know the actual pain, the actual issue. A lot of you here are business people, but guess what? A lot of you don't like to keep your accounting books. It's the truth. It's a fact. A lot of you don't like to keep your accounting books. You treat it like the only time you want to keep records is when you know that there's a consequence. That's when you want to keep record. And yet we're building an application on the assumption that people want to keep records, but that the tools available are out of their reach. That was the assumption that made us invest in building that application. Do you understand what I'm saying? So please, go back and ask them to pay. It is then that they will give you the information you need to make that stuff more efficient. Okay? Thanks. So, develop a compelling pitch. What's in a pitch? A pitch is not a business plan. A pitch is a small, maybe 10 slides at most. What does it do? It basically just speaks to the problem, it speaks to the opportunity, it speaks to the solution, it speaks to how you make money, it speaks to it speaks to how you make money, it speaks to your team, right? And then ultimately, it speaks to what you want. And I'll have to add what you do with what you want. Do you understand? Those are the key things a pitch deck should have. It's not a business plan. You can have a business plan. And this is for startups, so don't go out and say, Uche said, oh, I'm running an SME, so he said I should. If you want to do a pitch deck as an SME, it's fine. But understand that the business model you have is not novel. And as such, you can do your business plan if you're going to the banks or you're going to go and loan money from your friends. All right? So I think it's important you understand that. Work within investors. Find out investors, where the investors are. Network hard. I told you guys that in Nigeria, we trivialize IM. Huh? We trivialize IM, right? Imam Madu. Is that correct? You know what IM means now? You're not talking. Should I stop? Okay, so you need to be more lively so that I can continue. So we trivialize connections, right? But the truth is, you are more than halfway. You're more than halfway done if a mutual connection that I trust sends you to me. If that person that I trust understands what I'm looking for and says, Uche, I have something I think you should look at, and sends it to me, you're more than halfway. The other half, right, is just me basically assessing the stuff by myself. Now, other ways you can do this, you can do cold emailing, right? You can do cold calling, cold emailing. But nothing trumps connection, people connecting you. Is the fastest way. So when you don't have people to connect you, you can use other tools. Go on LinkedIn. We're asking how many people are on LinkedIn. A lot of you are on Facebook when you should be on LinkedIn. A lot of you are on Facebook when you should be on LinkedIn. Facebook is good for marketing, right? LinkedIn is good for building connections, professional connections that can affect your business. If you want to market, go on Facebook, right? That's fine. LinkedIn also says they are marketing, which no problems. But the thing with LinkedIn is you can build massive network on LinkedIn, people you didn't know from anywhere. Just show up and make sure that you're not being a nuisance. Just make sure that you are connecting meaningfully and contributing meaningfully, right? Once you're able to do that, do your research. Don't just come and do your research and ensure that you're speaking to your strengths, your knowledge. Share your knowledge. Make sure that you are reaching out to the right audience. And you can grow your network that way. As you connect to people, one tip, as you connect to people and you're looking for somebody, go and check whether there are people you know. There are people that you know that are connected to the person you're looking for. Maybe it was you and I was talking about the Total guy, right? I quickly went on LinkedIn. While we're still talking on the phone, I Googled his name. I didn't even know him. I Googled his name, and then I found his LinkedIn, went on LinkedIn, and realized I was connected to one of my guys. And as you drop the phone, I pick up my phone and I call my guy and I say, bros, so and so, what happened? He said, that kind of my man, no. In fact, me and I just talked finish like how many minutes ago? What do you want? Oh, I want this. Okay. Say, hold on. There's no reason he won't come except his schedule is not free. The reason you didn't see him, he didn't come was because his engagement was tight. He said, except his schedule is not free, there's no reason he won't come. Hold on. Right there and there, he called. We're still on the phone. On the intercom, he calls his PA and started asking her, how far, how you doing? They started talking some internal related stuff. Finished. She said, hey, this person, what is it on his calendar on so and so day? That one tells him. He says, okay. Okay, don't worry. Let me speak with him. I'll come back to you. Why am I sharing the story? Basic connection. LinkedIn. Right? So use LinkedIn. Okay? So attend events. You're looking to raise money. You're building a startup. And you're not attending startups out. You're on a long thing. Hello? Okay, so attend events. It doesn't have to just be startups out. Don't mind me, I was kidding, right? There are lots of events around town, and we want to see more happen, okay? So attend events. Go and read up on, the terms, valuations, and all of those things. Go and read up on them. Be knowledgeable around them, okay? But if you want to get a bit more in depth, I'll cover them in the course I spoke about. Okay? Let's go to the next. All right, so this is grant. What is grant? It's basically non-repayable funds provided by organizations, government, private organizations. So these are monies that you're not paying back. And usually they are targeting. There's a reason they're giving out the money. So companies give out monies, government give out monies. So if your business fall into the category that they're giving money to, then you should try and get one and use it for the reason they're giving it to you. There are countries in this world that they use grant system to actually energize their economic base. Like someone told me about how the Chinese would give grants to, companies, and the reason is so that those companies can employ people, but those companies are supposed to. There's some metrics they give to them. You have to reach that metric. If you don't reach that metric, that money becomes a loan that you have to pay back. Do you understand? So it's some type of creative grant system. Okay? So there are lots of grants like that. It typically requires detailed application process. Like I said, it's usually focused. Some will be, what do they call that thing again? What do they call the global initiative thing? The UN development goals. So sustainable SDGs. So it could be tied around SDGs. Some grants may be tied around SDGs. So you have to do your research and find out that your company aligns with one or two or three of those SDGs so that you can benefit from the grant. Okay? But know that it is highly competitive. Okay? Next slide. Just know that it's very highly competitive. So it's suitable for all businesses, all business types. Whether you're a startup, whether you're brick and mortar, you can access grants. Do you understand? So you can access grants, but impact-oriented businesses stand better chance. And that's what I was talking about prior to this time. Impact-oriented businesses stand better chance. So make sure that you're aligning your business. Whether or not you need a grant, in today's world, you should find out what SDGs your business is addressing and let it reflect in your communications, right? So who gives this? Government agencies, non-profits, corporate organizations through CSRs, all right? Let's see the next slide. So regularly grant announcements. There are portals. Opportunity for Africa. How many of you know Opportunity for Africa? Huh? So go to Opportunities for Africa. They post a lot of grants on that portal, right? So regularly monitor, announce, ensure your business meets eligibility criteria before applying. Submit thorough and well-documented applications by specified deadlines. Okay? So one of the things you can do, one additional, this is me giving you extra value. One additional thing you can do, the higher the number of applications you submit, the more likely that you're able to get. So what I mean is, the more number of grants that you find and submit to, the more chances of success increases, right? So one of the things you can do is to probably get an intern who can help you, maybe document, get all your documents and credentials together, put them together in a way that answers certain questions. Get an intern to just basically look for grant opportunities and help you apply for them. So that you can increase your chances of getting some of the grants. Yeah? The other thing you can also do, aside from, okay, let me leave that. So let's go to the next one. Go back to the next slide. I know you've looked at the slide. So leave it here. So I know that you've looked at the slide, so I want us to do something together. If you are running, can you stand up and tell me the business? Can somebody stand up, tell me what business you do, and tell me what funding sources, what type of funding you think is suitable for you, for your business, and the sources of the business funding. Can we do that? First, introduce yourself. Tell us what your business does, and then tell us the type of funding and the source.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Xavier Udo, and I'm a founder. I found All Things Snog, a home visualization startup. Now, the kind of funding we'll need will be equity funding, and we can also use grants, equity funding and grants, and our sources will be angels and VCs.
All right. Thank you very much, Xavier. Interestingly, it's the first time I'm seeing you in person, right? Okay, good. Yeah.
My name is Paulo Goji. I'm the founder and CEO of RipVest. So RipVest is a financial platform that helps individuals grow wealth through smart saving systems and impact investments. So some of the funding sources I would look out for would include VCs. We've already started a lot of processes from last year, which include reaching out to family, friends to get support, and then we're looking forward to reaching out to VCs and angel investors.
Awesome. Paul, okay, I saw you earlier and I didn't recognize you. Maybe because of your beard, right? Okay, good. Who else? I want to see. Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, my name is Esther, founder of the Green Foods and Farms. So the grants we are looking at is government grants and agricultural related grants. So, and also family grants too as well. Family help.
All right. All right. Thank you, Esther. There's another hand up there.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Uche Anichie. I'm an environmental consultant and I run environmental firm too. The kind of financing I'll be looking at is a debt financing because my job has to do with bidding. So I can come with a contract document and get a loan from the bank for my business. And again, I can be open to venture capital firm too because of the kind of business I run. It's more of a growing business because it's in the oil and gas sector. So I can be able to share the contract which I've already won and I can get financing too. Thank you very much.
Okay. Chief, I know you didn't raise your hand, but I'd like to hear from you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Nweze. I'm the creative director of Bespoke Tailors. I make apparel and garments, and also a real estate consultant. I was once the business developing manager of 2 different real estate companies. So one of the sources of financing for me.
Type and source. Type first.
Type.
Type first. What type?
From what you said.
Yes, for your business, what type?
For the one I have done or from what you said? From the one I've done actually, through the real estate business, you know, that we get our commissions. So from the commissions, you use it to pump into your business. And so you can actually tell me the type. That's my own commission.
This is the second time you're doing this today. This is the second time you're doing this today.
Because I still want to know more types of getting...
But you've not told me the types that I told you today.
Okay, you told me about grants, VCs. You told me about...
I told you about equity. I told you about debt. I told you about
debt
grants.
financing.
Yes, so which of them works for your business that you currently do?
Debt financing, angel investors.
Why debt? Why debt financing?
You're asking me which one that will work, or you're asking me which one that I have tried. I want to understand the angle of your question.
For my kind of business, the kind of funding that will work will be equity and grants. And then, however, I believe that since it's a startup, it's better to start with grants because that way you are able to have some liquidity, build traction, and then when it's time to get like VC funding, you have like enough
all right, thank
data
you.
to get good valuation.
Thank you. Sorry. You want to ask a question? Okay, go ahead and ask.
Thank you, sir.
But I still want somebody to talk about his business. So
yes, so I want to talk. So now this is it. which may also help some of us. So at this stage of our business, what suits, or from what we have discussed and looked at, what will suit what we're looking at more?
That's
will
for
be-
pastures.
Yes,
Okay.
at this phase will be more of an equity that is what's the other, dividend related, an equity that is dividend seeking, or a loan, as it were. But there is also some of the conversations we've had about the scale. So what I'm saying is that will help us also build to a space where we are able to now build to now enable us to be able to build a kind of a stage where we can now scale rapidly to now begin to look at the angles of VCs and all of considering some of those other. So the question now is that are there those dynamics? Some of us, we are at a phase where we want to build businesses that can scale in the light of a typical startup like we talk about in this space. But many of our business, many of us, what we're trying to do actually is just probably structure an unstructured market. So you're trying to move from a known space probably to an unknown space, or improve efficiency in certain industries that we have identified. And how do we, navigate, especially around this funding time? At what point does it look like an angel investor? At what point does it look like a loan? At what point again does it look like, okay, you can now move to a VC? Are there possibility of your funding needs changing as well?
Keep this question. I will answer this question. But there's somebody. You want to talk about him, not you. Huh? No, I want us to discuss his business based on his answer. Who wants to do that? Is that what you want to discuss?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Timothy Gospel, and I happen to be one of the co-founders of Southside Enterprises and Southside Properties. So we are into property investments. For his business, the bespoke stuff. So I think debt financing can work for him, because if he has a good cash flow, from what he said he does, he can use debt financing method to actually fund his business properly.
So why is angel investor not a good?
Angel investments, just like he said, angel investors most times may not need dividend for now because they are not yet shareholders. So angel investments can just be more like a friend. For me, I think angel investors put their money basically on startups.
Okay, thank you. So angel investment is a type of VC investment. I said that earlier, maybe I wasn't clear. Angel investing is a type of venture capital investment. The difference between an angel investor and a VC is that an angel investor is using his personal money. So he's not an angel sent by God. He wants to make money. Okay? The only thing is, he's like, we say, it's the first outside money that the business gets. All right? So he would typically invest in a business that has the potential for high growth. So if your business does not have the potential for high growth, angel investors will not invest, because how he makes his money is not necessarily the dividend. He makes his money when VC companies find value in your business and brings money at a higher valuation. Do you understand? So if the VC companies cannot find value in your business to value it at a higher valuation after he has invested, it's not a good deal for him. So angel investor will not invest. Do you understand? So I think this should be clear. However, the first source of money outside of yourself, I said it has to be you first. The first source of money outside of yourself should be what we call friends and family. So your friends, your families, some of them can give you money without expecting anything back. They are not necessarily angel investors, even though some of them can become angel investors. Do you understand? So there can be people who are giving you money not because of what they hope to make out of the business, but because they want to see you succeed. So they are giving you money. So you can as well call that a grant. Do you understand? So that's why I wanted to use that to clarify what we're discussing. I'm told questions, but I still have a few slides. We will do, if you don't mind. Can you keep it? Okay, great. All right. Let's go to the next slide. So, no, go back. So here's the thing. I thought most of you saw this. So funding sources to consider for brick and mortar businesses. Hello? This guy is blocking some of my stuff. I don't know if you can see. Not even the camera, it's the light. Okay, so funding sources for brick and mortar. Thank you. For brick and mortar businesses, investors. There are investors that will invest in brick and mortar business. They're not necessarily investing because they are startups. There are investors that are happy to get dividend. So let's not just get it twisted. The investors that want to get dividend, and so they're happy to invest. So you can get those investors either as angel investors. They are not the kind of investors we're talking about, but they are still investors. Private equity firms, and even the capital market. The capital market for growing businesses. You can get money from that if your business is growing. Okay? So bank loans and lines of credit, invoice financing. Somebody talked about, I can get a contract. That's partly invoice financing, right? Or LPO financing. That one is LPO financing. Invoice financing is, I have done the job. I'm waiting for the money to be paid. So I take the invoice, I go to a bank or somebody and say, I need cash now, I can't wait. Can you pay me? And when this will pay, you take your interest. That's invoice financing. All right? Personal savings or family investment. Friends and family. I talked about that earlier, right? Then government grants and subsidies. Okay? So if you're running a brick and mortar business or small businesses like we would call them, right? These are some of the sources you should consider to raise money from. And remember that I've told you some of the tips on how to raise these monies. Do you remember? Can you still remember that? Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So what are some of the sources that startups should consider? Personal savings, family and friends, angel investors, venture capital firms, of course, private equities, capital markets, equity crowdfunding platforms, accelerators and incubators. How many of you don't understand anything there? Huh? So, I'll start with the accelerators and incubators. That's the one I think I should explain. So, incubators. Incubators are basically hubs or programs that helps you to start your business from scratch. So you can take an idea to an incubator, and they help you to, especially if you're planning to build a startup, and they can help you refine the idea and get you to the point where the business begins to run with customers. All right? Accelerators are like what is called, they help accelerate your growth. So some of the popular accelerators are like Y Combinators. How many of you know Y Combinator? Yeah? Techstars. Okay? Those are some of the popular accelerators. They are investors. They are like incubators, but higher up the ladder. Okay? So what they do, they take a business that is already existing, that is just starting. They support the business, give them finance, okay, and help them grow faster to build up the traction that other investors would want to see, and then bring them before those investors so that the investors can invest. That's what accelerators do, okay? Crowdfunding platforms are basically platforms that, for instance, there's Get Equity. Get Equity, for instance, is a crowdfunding platform that allows you to list your company and allow strangers to buy shares in your company, basically. Not like capital market. They've just contributed some. Kickstarter. How many of you know Kickstarter? If you are in the hardware space, you should know Kickstarter, right? Or Indiegogo. Indiegogo, Kickstarter. Those are crowdfunding platforms. All right? So let's go to the next slide. So these are some of the Tony Elumelu Foundation, some of the grant opportunities. How many of you know Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program? All right? It's ending on the 28th of February. They have like 3 different calls running concurrently as we speak. Okay? The main one is ending on the 28th of February. The other one is ending on the 30th of March or so. But please don't go to the website, okay, and see the details. Okay. Next one. Huh? Go back one step. Okay. Selfconnect.com. Selfconnect.com. So let's go to the next one. All right, so this one is MasterCard Agribusiness Fund. This one currently is not accepting application. I checked, right? However, it's an annual thing. So you want to keep an eye on it if you're in the agribusiness space. And like I said, go to Opportunity for Africa and you should be able to see a lot of these calls. All right? Next one. So Global Center on Biodiversity for Climate Change, for climate research grant. This one gives up to £1 million in funding for projects addressing climate and poverty solutions. Remember I told you, it has to be based on something. So are you meeting that stuff? Okay? That's the website. I don't know if you've written it down. You can go and read up more on that. Are you done? Next one. All right. So I told you about the cost, right? So everything I've spoken about is difficult to basically compress all that information into 1 hour. So there are lots of things I had to skip just so that we can make this within 1 hour. But thankfully, I'm developing a course for this, just basically focused on access to funding. And it's not just for startups, okay? It's for every type of business. So I'm going to be able to break down a lot of the topics, a lot of the conversations into different bits. So it's a full course, right? Not 1 hour course. So it's a full course. Within 48 hours, if you're part of this training and you pre-order, you can pay 30K for it. But after now, it is 65K. Right? So after now, that's what it's the real price will kick in. But it's within 48 hours. If you are interested, go to seller.co fund for biz and pre-order, okay? So that once the course is ready, you'll be the first person to take the course. And what this gives you is, apart from giving you in-depth insight and guide to fundraising, it gives you an opportunity to have an office hour with me over time. Do you understand? So let me tell you a little story. When we started Startup South, okay, I would share, and I still do that. Those of you in the Startup South community, I send you messages regularly, right? I send a lot of free information, a lot of free knowledge information. I do that almost like on a weekly basis. I send like twice or thrice sometimes. If I don't send at all, maybe like twice, okay? I do a lot of free stuff, okay? But I discovered, and sometimes I also do free meetings. People book meetings and they come and meet me and we talk. But our goal for Startup South is to help raise businesses from around here. But I discovered people are not taking them seriously. And it dawned on me that the reason they're not taking it seriously is because they're not paying for it, because it's free. I'm a coach. I'm asking you to charge people, right? Is that correct? And so I'm now putting a price on it so that when only serious people would come. So if you're part of the community, I'll continue to send the stuff, but know that the things I send to you are things that you're supposed to pay for. So take them seriously. But if you now need, because sometimes people come to ask me questions I've addressed. I'm like, did I not just address this stuff? So the guy probably wasn't taking it seriously, right? So, but I think we need to go a bit further to make it work. So I've also been building a database of people who can fund your business, all right? So buying this puts you in a position, puts you in a position to be able to do that, okay? To get those resources. So that's what it does. So within 48 hours, if you pay 30K, you get that. But after 48 hours, the main price for the product kicks in. So this is the first time I'm actually talking about this. Yeah. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. So it's the first time I'm talking about it. All right. So seller.co/fund for biz. All right. So I think now we can do the questions. Next slide. She has a question as well. I told you to hold. Oh, it's been answered. Go ahead.
If you have questions. Thank you, sir. If you have questions, just so that we are organized. I know it's about money, so everybody's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's it. So can we all just stand, please? I'm trusting that Mr. Uche will be able to take, say, 2 at a time. So I'll take you, sir. Yes, you, sir.
Okay, good evening once again. Thank you, sir, for this insightful section. So, like I said, I'm Timothy Gospel. I'm into property investment. Part of our prospect for Southside Enterprise and Southside properties is to build skyscrapers in River State. So it's like something new because we just think it's something to be done. So my question is, what kind of funding do you think we need? Although we've already made some findings and some things. Some persons say crowdfunding. We are looking at other means. So that was the question. Thank you.
Let's just take 2 at a time. So that, all right. Is number 2.
Good evening, everybody, once again. Thank you so much, Mr. Uche, for the very insightful session. So my question is around the valuation. I know you didn't really speak so much about it. So I'm actually experiencing this challenge where you meet with an investor and then your valuation is actually dropped. Like they tell you, okay, this valuation is too high. And then you want to sell to them, okay, we are giving you this amount of equity for this funding. And then the next investor you're pitching to is saying, okay, we're going to give you this. So how do you manage, how do you create a balance between these for the next time, probably when you want to raise again?
Okay, thank you. I didn't touch valuation. That's part of the things that will be on the course, right? Because like I said, it's going to be in depth, but I would share with you, right? But let me answer him first. Building skyscraper today is not rocket science, right? When it comes to funding, and I didn't mention that the best form of funding ever is customers fund. Did I say that? I didn't mention that. So instead of chasing funding, maybe I'd implied it when I talked about cash flow. So when I talked about cash flow, you can replace that with customers fund. Because when money up front, right? When people love what they're doing, they know what they're doing. You actually generate funding to be able to do. In real estate, a lot of you already do that. So a lot of the real estate developments that are being sold, it's only the 3D. Is it 3D rendering that people are seeing? And that's what people are paying money for. True or false? True or false? So it boils down to marketing at the end of the day. So just like you do not raise money for an unviable business just for the fun of it, you can't also raise money for an unviable project, especially real estate project, for the fun of it. So the right way is to test the viability by offering it to customers. I am very sure that if your budget, if your cost, for instance, your projection for building a skyscraper, let's say it is 20 billion, and you're able to identify an anchor tenant who makes a commitment, identify an anchor tenant or an anchor investor, yeah? Because I believe that those kind of projects will be some type of multi-owned property. Not like one person owns it and is out, right? So you identify anchor investors. So you go to a company who says, you know what, we want to take the entire ground floor of this building. And if the project is 20 billion or 30 billion, right? Say we're paying 5 billion. We're making a commitment for 5 billion. They may not give you the money up front, right? Letter of intent, LOI, and then also some cash commitment, because nobody will give you that money up. There has to be some cash commitment. So go, and then you get other retail investors. Get retail investors buying different, portions of the building. If you get commitment of at least 45% or 50% of that project, I'm very sure that some banks will give you money to run that project and collect their money afterwards. So loan, when you ask me what funding type should you look at? Investors and loan should be what you should look out for. But you have to be creative about it. And so marketing is important. I hope that helps. For valuation, I need you to, every one of you should understand something. Valuation is a two-edged sword. Okay? When it comes to valuation, valuing brick and mortar businesses is so easy. Okay? Because you can easily look at their assets, look at their P&L and everything, and you can do a valuation. Right? But valuing startups is not as straight. So sometimes there are lots of different methods for valuation. But for your stage, for an early stage business, early stage startup, it's difficult to place a valuation on the business. Okay? Typically, if the business was already, right, you could say 4x. And by the way, this is also used for brick and mortar. You could say 4x or 5x of the revenue, of the annual revenue. So the thinking behind that is that if this business operates at the scale they're operating now for the next 5 years, okay, for the next 5 years they can make this money, right? And if they can make this money, it means that our money, the bet we're placing on them is not misplaced. That's basically what it's saying. So when it comes to startup valuation, is a function of who is buying. The value is a function of what investors think about your business at that point. Now, some founders will say, some founders really want their valuation to be very high. They want their valuation to be very high because it makes them feel good, right? But there's something called down round. How many of you have heard of? There was recently a startup that got sold, right? And the investors and the founder didn't get a dime from the founder of the business. Did not get a dime, not because they didn't have shares in the business. So their value has eroded. The values of the shares have eroded because they did not meet their next funding goal. So down round is when, so if you raise money today at a certain valuation, you're telling the investors that I'm taking this money because I want to meet this revenue goal in the next 6 to 12 months or the next 18 months. And when I reach this revenue goal, I want to be able to raise money at this valuation. And typically that valuation will be bigger than the current valuation you're taking money from them. Remember that I told you that investors are not looking for dividend. They are looking for the upside, what we call the upside. That upside is the difference in valuation between when I invested and when the next person is investing. And usually that has to come from you hitting a certain, you guys are making me talk. So that has to come from you hitting particular milestones. And so here's one thing you should know. I've heard people say, oh, but I have revenue. I'm making 20 million. I've made 50 million this year, right? Why am I not getting investment? It is not the total revenue you've made that's a problem. Please note that. It's not the total revenue you've made that's a problem. It is the regularity of the revenue that you make. So there has to be a month-on-month, a year-on-year progress. Do you understand? So this month I'm making 5 million. Next month I'm making 7 million. The next one I'm making 10 million. It shows that there's progress. It shows that customers are loving what you're doing more and more. If you wait from January till November, you didn't make anything, and in December only, you made 50 million. And you come to me in January of the next year and say, I need investment. I made 50 million in revenue last year. I want to go and check, when did you make this 50 million? How did it go? Do you understand? So if I just go and see that you made the 50 million only in December, I want to ask questions. So what happened in January? What happened in February? What happened in March? What happened in April? Right? Now, if you make 50 million in December, assuming I don't invest in January and I wait again till April, I want to see, are you able to make 60 million in January? Are you able to make 70 or 80 million in February? Do you understand? So that's where a lot of founders lose it. So it's important. Valuation, put yourself up there such that you're not able to meet your next goal. When that happens, and if anybody is interested in investing, they are likely to invest in you at a lower valuation than the last one you raised. And when that happens, you have eroded value for your current existing investors. And that's called down round. And typically there will be a clause in your term sheet and your share purchase agreement that there will typically be a clause that guards against down round. And what would happen when that happens? And it's usually not in the founder's favor when a down round occurs. Do you understand? All right.
Good evening, Mr. Uche. Can I ask 3 questions?
Can you ask 3 questions?
Yes. Okay, so I'll just ask one then.
All right.
You mentioned 3 types of financing, debts, equity, and grants. But then there's a source of financing I'm aware of, venture debt. And I want to see, like, it falls under financing and still under equity. So what type of startup businesses can go for venture debt?
Venture debt is debt. It's not equity. The only reason it's called venture debt is that venture capital firm is giving you the debt. Do you understand? So it's debt. It's debt financing.
Okay, but I'm aware that some venture debts convert to equity. That's why I'm asking.
No, that is when you use convertible notes. It's a type of investment instrument that gives you it gives you a mandate to meet. And the reason investors use it is to ensure that you don't go and play. Do you understand? Convertible note is a type of investment instrument. So typically, if I want to invest in your business today, I'll typically just do a direct share purchase agreement. No conditions. We'll just sign, we'll just list out the terms of the investment, and I sign, you sign, I give you money. Right? Then, but that's because we are agreeing on a certain valuation. Okay? Then, if you come to me and I feel, oh, I can invest in this guy, but there's something that is sticking out that I'm not so sure of, right? But at the same time, I don't want to miss the deal. I can tell you, guy, listen, I'm going to give you this money, right? If within 2 years, if in the next 2 years, you meet this goal, this target, that money converts to equity, and I will take the shares. I can sign a share transfer agreement at that point. Yeah? But if it doesn't, the money becomes a loan, and you pay me back with interest. And you pay me back with interest at the prevailing market rate. That's convertible note. And that's typically an instrument. That's not what we call venture debt. Venture debt is when a VC firm decides to arrange, instead of investing in your company, they're giving you a loan. And there are VC firms today that actually, their model is based on venture debt, venture debt financing. They've raised money. Their thesis is, we will not do equity. We will give money to companies that's based on loan. So that's venture debt.
Okay, so startup businesses come for convertible, you mentioned.
And the startups that can take loan, the startups that I said can take debt financing. The businesses I said can go for debt financing. Can you remind me the businesses? Good positive cash flow, right? Yeah, and growth. Those are the businesses that can do venture debt. Everything debt is risky in the long run, but it is what it is. There's nothing that is not risk in life. Even equity is risky. True?
All right, sir. Thank you very much. So my question is very simple. I want to ask, firstly, I
used to be afraid of people that say the question is simple.
So I want to ask first, it's one thing to know a skill and to know how to do the skill very well. It's another thing to now know the business part of the skill. So what can you say about a person that doesn't know how to now pitch his own business, but he knows the skill? So that's one. That's number 2 is, I've been hearing about storytelling and how effective it is. I don't know if that's true. Talking about doing a pitch deck presentation physically. Do you think storytelling actually plays any important role
when doing pitch deck presentation. Storytelling is a type of, it's a type of marketing, right? That allows you to connect to people at a level of, at an emotional level. And it does what it does for any other, just like for any other. You know how, you know what story does for you? It's the reason why movies, people, nations use movie as a marketing tool. No, Hollywood is not just film. Hollywood is a branding tool for America, right? A lot of people tell you that some of the things happening in the East and in Nigeria today is because of Nollywood. And to a large extent, it's true. Yeah? So storytelling connects to people at an emotional level, and it has a way of making people believe what they are being told, even sometimes when they are not true. All right? So storytelling would work for marketing any day, anytime, if done well, right? Your other question was, if somebody does not know how to do the business of the skill, but has a skill, so get a co-founder that knows how to do the business of the skill. You must not be CEO. The fact that you are the founder, that you are the owner of the idea, does not mean you should be CEO of the business. You can own more stake, even though we typically say that CEOs should have more stake so that they can control the direction of the business. Right? You must not be CEO. You can own the idea, you can know the skills, get somebody. I'll give you an instance. Even though in this case it wasn't because he didn't know the business of the skill. Wenga, how many of you know GB? How many of you know GB? You know GB? Flutter wave. How many of you know E in Olua, Aboyeji? It sounds alien to a lot of you. That's strange. You guys get to read though. By the way, I'm on radio every Monday, and I talk a lot about these things. I'll be on radio again on Monday. So every Monday I'm on radio by 11 o'clock. Huh? Save a Live FM. 11 a.m. So I talk about a lot of these things every Monday. Okay? So, 8.9. So, when Flutterwave started, Benga could not lead the company, even though it was his brain, it was his idea. They hired E, who has just left Andela, to become the co-founder and the CEO of the company. The major reason E was hired was because E has worked with Andela, has connection in the startup ecosystem globally, right? Andela had raised money from Y Combinator, so they had connection. So it wasn't surprising that E became CEO and Flutterwave was able to enter Y Combinator. You understand? But who was the core person building the platform? Wenga. So you must not be the CEO. But the primary role or responsibility of the CEO, like Demola will tell you, is to market your company. You market your company to investors, you market your company to customers, you market your company to the staff. That's your primary role as a CEO. Every other thing is secondary. So your role is to look for the money, which is talk to investors. Yeah? Talk to customers. And talk to the staff. So if you think you can't do that, get somebody else to do it. I hope that helps. Okay.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Once again, my name is Emmanuel, and we all know that I make wares and also I do real estate. So I want to really appreciate you for your time. I like your balance, and also I psychologically I know that you are inconvenienced or pressed like I am, but you are still there maintaining your steez to answer our questions. Thank you so much. You've answered one question. I want to ask a few. You dropped. Okay, I'm going to just subtotal it.
Okay.
You dropped a comment on mastering distribution when you talked about CUDA. You said you were going to drop it, so I picked it where you dropped it, and I knew that I was going to give it to you. And why did you drop that? You were talking about them not getting physical stores, right? So let's say I just come into this place, or I come into a space where I'm supposed to thrive in business. You get? And aside the marketing tools which you listed, attending events, you listed LinkedIn, Facebook as a marketplace too. Which other one can actually go in a place like that to thrive, even if I don't get to CUDA level, but I know there is always dexterity and ability to thrive still in that space. How much options do I have? That's one.
I'm not sure I got the question.
Aside in marketing,
yes.
Aside the LinkedIn, the Facebook, which other options do I have to make my business known and thrive?
Okay. Create events. Richard created an event and brought you here, right?
Okay, yeah.
Why do you think you're here? Why do you think you're here?
It's a business meeting.
Yes. Okay.
And Richard is my very good friend. My classmate as at that.
Okay, so in case you don't know,
okay,
you're here so that you can get to know about Fast Hire.
Okay.
You are, all of you here in this room are the clients that Richard's looking for. Richard could have gone on Facebook and be advertising his business. So the budget he would have spent on his to gather all of you here, he may not have talked about Fast Hire enough here. But the goal is you are all business leaders that employ people. You know Fast Hire now. If you want to recruit people, there's a likelihood that the first, company that might come to your mind in terms of recruiting will be Fast Hire. Yes. So explore events. You can either organize your own or you sponsor other events, right? Yeah. That's one. You can also go on radio. I mean, those were the traditional channels before, digital markets came on board. You can go on radio. For your space, as I drive around Port Harcourt, I see billboards about fashion people. You can explore that. Or any channel you decide to use, make sure to do your cost-benefit analysis and ensure that it's working for you, right? Yeah. So which other one that you can explore your church? Reach out to people in your church, in your communities. Oh, by the way, you can also build community. Hello, how many of you know what community is? You can build community around you. Yeah, but I talk about WhatsApp. Get people content marketing. But don't just content market. Create a channel where you can get everybody. So you can talk about how people can look smart and look good and simple tips. Simple tips how people can look good and smart. Sometimes that are not expensive. But you're doing that because you make clothes. And so because you're in that community, from time to time you're able to tell them, the products that you have. So you can also leverage community building. And that's really a big thing. You don't have to do it yourself. You can hire, there are people who build communities. You can hire people to build communities for you. So those are some of the things you can explore. I think that's it. I hope that answered your questions.
Yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Wow. Okay. At some point, I was like, I need to, just book this place for like the next 2 days. All right, we're about to close the curtain, but